This is our secret.
Well, I am very delighted to welcome you all on filmeshilmy.com and a heartiest congratulations on your film Umro Ayyar, which is obviously Pakistan's first superhero film. I'm yet to see the movie, but I've been reading a lot of amazing stuff about it, and I can't wait to catch this extravaganza on the big screen. Um, I think I'm going to begin by sort of addressing, you as artists, because obviously when it comes to working with VFX, I mean, this is a completely separate entity to working with another human being. Because obviously you have to kind of bear in mind the sort of graphics that will go on top after the post-production is done. So I guess what was the biggest challenge for you as artists whilst working with the VFX side of things?
Well, I guess when I would watch back the BTS of all these VFX heavy films in Hollywood, I would really be like, now this is some serious acting. To be able to act like a monster is coming at you when you're wearing this weird suit or have like nothing, just blue and green walls, but to be really petrified that something's coming at you or to be drowning or to be emoting whatever your environment is giving, throwing at you, to be able to express those emotions at that time, I thought was really difficult. And I was like, this is real acting now because you really have to pretend. But when we pretend act, we've got all the environment kind of caters to our needs. But I was always amazed. And then lo and behold, when we got that opportunity, I was like, right, okay. We have to really extra pretend and use our imagination and kind of really trust the director and the VFX team that it'll all come together. So it was a challenge, exciting. It was something I was always very curious about, and I'm glad I got the opportunity.
It's always a challenge because, I mean, as Sanam said rightly, that this particular brand and this particular technique of acting is very different than when you're doing a serious drama or a comedy or whatever. You're pulling from the environment. In this particular case, you don't have the environment to pull from. You have to really make everything so alive in your own mind and your own heart and soul, so that you can literally live that without having the external stimulus to help you. I think I make it akin to theater very much, because when you and you'll see that, especially in sci-fi, you'll see a lot of theater actors do really well. And I think part of the reason is because in theater, by cracking some metal sheets, there's a thunder, or by turning on the light, it's day, right? And you have to somehow the other embody that environment and that reality, and then have enough of a technique to then make the audience access that reality for you. So it's a very different kind of a challenge. It's a sweet challenge. It's a very different kind of a challenge, but I always love it. And I think whether you do it, in the US or UK or Pakistan, the challenge remains the same. It's the same kind of an acting approach. So I love it. I love it.
Right. What about you, Ali?
Well, they've stolen all the best answers now. So what am I going to do? No, but truthfully, I agree that I think the greatest thing, and that is the connection you feel with your teammates, your castmates, your scene partners, and the connection you have with the director at that point is king, which a lot of times may not be, because sometimes you can, in other scenes which are maybe not VFX heavy or situations that are not so dependent on that whole thing connecting and working together. Like, for example, some of the epic scenes that we have in this movie with Farhan Bhai and fighting against him and also being connected with each other. I think the biggest issue is that if, for example, if with Asfar, if Asfar hasn't properly conveyed, our director hasn't probably conveyed what exactly is going to transpire, what's going to happen, where the smoke demon is going to go and where it's going to come from, and how it's going to grab you, or how the zombie is going to come at you, whatever it is.
Right.
I think you won't be able to perform it exactly either, because you haven't gotten the right direction. And then if everybody in that scene is not believing the whole thing, like if Lakka's character has captured Meena and Maz, my character, we can't fully enact that if all three of us are not believing it. If one of us is a little bit, off or not believing it, the scene is not going to work. So I think the connectivity between what really VFX really brings out, surprisingly, which I think a lot of people don't understand, is that, oh, great, it was all computer done, all that kind of stuff. But agreeing with my two lovely co-stars is that actually the connectivity is at its peak if the scene is doing well, especially with VFX, with the director and with your co-stars. And that's very important.
Now, of course, the film is a modern retelling of the classic Persian epic, also called Umro Ayyar. And I think in terms of the actual sort of storytelling itself, it's quite wonderful because you've got these two worlds. You've got the modern world that we're living in today. You're also revisiting a sort of other world that, that is obviously back in the past and all of that. So I think for you, what kind of helped you to really understand the two worlds in particular, because there's a certain language, there's a certain sort of behavior that the warriors sort of had, right? So how did you sort of adapt to that?
Honestly, you tap into a lot of your childhood imagination. Growing up, you imagine certain storylines and scenarios in your head that if I was in this era, I'd be like this. If I was in that era, I'd be like that. For me, because video games were a huge part of my life, I remember playing games such as like Prince of Persia, and there was a certain storyline in that, and that I think that element really helped bring that sort of ability to really put yourself into this world and see and again, going off of what Ali said, that you really, if everyone is on point, also you have to that's when you really, it helps you stay in character also. So just understanding, and I had to ask a lot of my elders because I didn't personally know that much about Umro Ayyar. And this is a story that goes back, like my father, mother, my brother, my siblings, they knew about it. So they helped me really tap into more of that background information to really get a bigger understanding of it.
Now, I think it's also really wonderful because I'm really liking the fact that in the South Asian subcontinent, we're sort of seeing stories which are bringing out to life our cultures in a modern way. Like in Hindi cinema, we had Brahmastra recently, which was a huge spectacle, and it was so wonderful to see my culture sort of come to life in such a modern way. So I'm pretty sure for you all as well, I think, Osama, I'm just going to sort of extend what you said as well. For you, it must be really kind of introspective, right? About really sort of talking about stories which we've grown up hearing about, and which has really formed a big backdrop and stuff. So what would you say, Sanam? I mean, how was your experience been sort of growing up with such stories and the impact of seeing it on such a big scale in Pakistani cinema?
Again, like you're saying, Hindu mythology is so many mystical and fantastical.
History, yeah.
So much history. It's one of the oldest religions that has, so many of these characters and the gods and the stories. So it's really quite fascinating. We, on the other hand, just had these Amir Hamza ki Dastan and these, stories of magic and folklore tales of the gestures of the courts coming from Persia and Iran and coming into the Mughal time, and how they would assist the warriors and the Mughals in times of war. Now, whether they were fictional or real, it doesn't matter because they're stories from the past. And it's always interesting to revive old literature because it shouldn't die with the people of that time. So it's really interesting that we can revive those characters, but with a modern twist. As Hollywood, Bollywood, any of the film industry people, when they pick up a story, it's important to keep it relevant so that it connects with the youth. We've just taken the characteristics of the original Umro Ayyar and kind of given it a modern twist, which is why we've called it Umro Ayyar, A New Beginning. And so our Umro Ayyar basically comes from the lineage of the original Umro Ayyar. So we're not replicate exactly that story with those same tricks and devices that he had and those costumes. We've kind of done a fusion so that we stay true to the fact that they are from a different world and a different time. And that we modernize it so that people are more familiar because of the way the world is working with gaming and different films and different techniques of beating power and different super energies and superpowers. We want to keep it relevant and modern and not be kind of left behind. But it's really exciting to have a superhero from Pakistan that can totally franchise into many other things. You can have different superheroes from different countries now, kind of from the South Asian subcontinent area to kind of come together, just like we had the come together in the West. This opens up lots of doors.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm going to come on to that side actually, and the sort of benefits that how it can really form a very big landscape of Pakistani cinema. But I'm going to come to Usman first, because I was asking Osama about the two different worlds coming together. The fact that obviously you're playing a quantum physics professor, and obviously who discovers this very wonderful power that you have, and you sort of enter this very, in a way, medieval world, mystical world, might I add. So for you to sort of present these two worlds, did you ever find maybe like a dichotomy within you as an artist whilst exploring these two different eras that we're seeing on the big screen?
Well, actually, I mean, it wasn't difficult because I think I know Farhan Bhai and Ali both grew up reading Umro Ayyar. So I mean, same goes for me. We grew up reading Umro Ayyar. So we would always fantasize about that time and those characters and all of that. And then also growing up reading comic books and DC.
We're also big
and
comic book
Marvel.
geeks, by the way. Most of us here. So like this is a dream come true anyway.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just it wasn't really hard. It was just we were waiting when would we get to start,
Correct. Now, I think, Farhan, I'm gonna sort of speak about what Sanam said, in terms of how this really does open up many avenues. I mean, I think the ball started rolling really 2 years ago. 2 years ago when Legend of Morajat came out. I mean, obviously that was such a huge film, and it was very ambitious, and it really sort of got the whole sort of conversation going about doing, costume dramas and really magnum opuses in Pakistani cinema. But I think with Umro Ayyar, obviously because it is the first superhero film, uh, what benefits do you think this could actually really give? I know it sounds like a very obvious question, but I think it would be nice to hear maybe from you as an artist. And
Yeah, look, I mean, I think there are a few things. I think for one thing, opening up new genres in our industry is always good because I think there's a lot of talent in this country. But I've said this over and over again, but what happens is that when you don't give the talent the opportunity to expand and explore, it becomes hard for a larger swath of actors to be introduced to this particular kind of acting, as Sanam had pointed out. So there's that challenge. So on that level, it's a really beautiful thing, and it's a very positive thing that we can start to experiment with other genres. That we might not always succeed, and they might not always be perfect, but I think that's the strength of an industry. That ability and that will to explore, and as an artist, I think that's our Hippocratic oath to keep on exploring new frontiers. So there's that. There's the other side, as you said, Monajat. The Monajat in its right is a wonderful movie, the original, because that was in its own right a groundbreaker and a game changer. The next one, again, in its own right, was a game changer because it brought a different kind of cinematic approach to storytelling, which is great. Umro Ayyar is a little different. I mean, it's taking that particular effort and taking to the next step, basically. We upped the ante by some. Our challenge was a little different because Monajat, although it is a classic, but it is a classic from the near past, right? I mean, from the 70s and the 80s. There is still a more familiarity with that idea, with that concept, with that story, and more readily available. You can watch the old Monajat to get a reference point. With Umro Ayyar, we are talking about stories which have been around for 600 years. And our biggest challenge in that was that although people like Usman and Ali and we have grown up with it, there is a generation like Osama who didn't know as much about these stories. So the big challenge was, how do you create that accessibility to an audience which would love all of this? But how do you give it the right frame? so that we can invite them into these stories. And if you watch the movie, it is set up so that, let's say that if we do another one, we are set up that we can go in the past, we can go in the future, we can go anywhere. That's the way the story is set up. So the first story had to be, as the title indicates, it is a new beginning. It is a new invitation for us to bond on something. And last thing I will say, I always give this example, that we go to a cricket match, our elders go, our young ones go, we go. Because we share an event, we share a topic. Similarly, right. I think Umro Ayyar has that ability to create a new topic for us to have a conversation over, which is literature, which is our stories, which take pride in who we are. It is part of our DNA, our creative DNA. And I think we need to own it. So I think that's the biggest challenge. And I'm hoping, and I think we have succeeded in reaching that audience. And the more we do that, I think, regardless of the financial success, I think that's the reward that I'm looking for.
Faran bhai has really got me emo right now, is because I was telling these guys yesterday, I took my kids and my nieces, my sister and my wife to watch it on the first show on Eid here in the cinemas. And the magic of it was, when I was leaving the cinema, that the amount of people, families, groups of just women, groups of just guys, just youngsters, like just teenagers that just, want to do something on Eid. And the amount of people that just stopped me and said, listen, man, we just want to say that I'm so excited that this has actually happened. That this is the first, we've never seen a film like this here. We can't believe it's Pakistani. We're so happy that it exists. And I hope there's going to be so much more like it. And that, to me, that's the win. I don't know how much money it's going to make. Yeah. I don't know how it's going to do around the world. But the win is that, you know what? Producers and a lot of people in our country say, you know what? The audience isn't ready. They're not ready for a cool thriller. They're not ready for cool sci-fi. They're not ready for a full-on action film without an item number or whatnot. But the audience is ready, man. And yesterday was a testament. It made me so happy that, you know what?
Yeah, I think we should never. I think it's the biggest mistake one can make, which is to underestimate the intelligence of the audience.
Yeah. Exactly.
Never talk down to them. Never. Yeah. They are your partners in this crime. And if you can't access them, then all is lost. So yeah, I mean, and we need to make sure, and especially I'll say one last thing, which is that, one of the biggest dearth in our industry has been that we're not catering to the largest audience that we have, which is the younger audiences.
That's right.
More content is being made for people who are of a different mindset. But let's reach in and let's tickle their fancy. Let's get their creativity going. Let's have a dialogue with them. They are the future of everything, right? Yeah. So why are we not creating content that actually speaks to them?
I just want to say one thing. Like Sanam said in a few interviews, the idea is simple. It's good and evil. There is good and
yes. Well, right. Usman, well done, yaar. I don't know how you get these ideas from, but it's...
I'm telling you, it's just Sanam said this and I was like, wow, why didn't we ever think of that?
Listen, she is a seer. She's a visionary. You can never compete. Okay?
Yeah.
Do not compete with Sanam Saeed.
No, you shouldn't even try. You shouldn't even try. Yeah. You should just accept it. Embrace it.
No, but I have to say though, I think honestly, I cannot tell you how amazing it always is. I mean, you all are amazing artists for sure, but there's something that I have very special with Sanam, because I've seen all of her works and I've seen her. I mean, the first time I met her was during Cake, and I think if there's anyone who's really portrayed very strong women roles, I mean, even not
absolutely,
just, but even in
absolutely, there's no
well. It is,
and lots of variety, man. You're gonna see her in a completely different avatar in this.
Yeah, and
she's a brilliant actor. That's you can't even question that. But I'm just saying, like, what she said was this film is
not gonna leave it. He's not gonna leave it. He's not gonna leave it. But let me say something else. I mean, talking about Sanam, I mean, the other beautiful thing about this film is that the women in this film are not damsels in distress.
That was
these are dames that will put you in distress.
Yeah.
right? I mean, these are powerful women. You don't mess
100%.
with these women, and that's
100%.
also an image that we do need to get out. You know?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So I think just on a final note, because I am being told to wrap up. So Sanam, I want to ask you. It's a two-part question, really. Quite a big question, but have to ask you nonetheless. Again, it's the representation of women. I think if we look at Pakistani cinema, I think quite obviously not to compare because obviously industries are different, but I guess there is a similarity in the sense where there have been an evolvement of the sort of roles that have been there for women. Of course, you've had the Shoaib Mansoor representation of really so strong social dramas. You've had your Asim Abbasi representation of Grey, but now this is almost like a new sort of pathway that's being created here. So how optimistic are you in terms of more sort of magnum opus representations of women following Umro Ayyar? And secondly, I think, yes, the old tale of good versus evil has definitely been something which everyone resonates to because that is the concept of life. But do you also feel that because of post-pandemic, it almost seems like people are clinging on to nostalgia, they're clinging on to familiarity in cinema, which is perhaps why films even in Hindi like Rocky Aur Rani have done really well, like even Legend of Wala, for that same reason, might have even done well as well because of that nostalgic factor. So I wanted to get your perspective on both these aspects.
Question first. I think a problem with cinema in general recently because all Hollywood was doing was regurgitating stuff, doing a prequel, a sequel to stuff I've seen, making brilliant classics. There's no need to make Mary Poppins again or, XYZ cartoons again. I mean, I didn't feel there was a need. They were already so well done. And I was wondering, what's happened to storytelling? Like, no one's coming up with anything new. It's all been done before. Practical magic now, everyone's really excited. I mean, it was fantastic. Why are they doing it again at
That's
this
right.
age? I'm like, move on, new stories,
I agree with that.
Yes, when you see it from a business point of view, I guess you know that it's going to work. And so there's a whole generation that missed out on that. And there's a whole generation that you can cash in on. So I guess that's how it works. I mean, I forget that this industry is not just about creativity and art. It is a business at the end of the day. So Maula Judd, again, did really well because it hit that nostalgic note. And Umro Ayyar, I guess it's an honor and a privilege to be doing something like this that hasn't been done before, yet hits a nostalgic note because it is a story from the past. So that's our plus point. That's our USP. It's definitely important, needed. But generally in the world, I wish we would move on from, lingering on in the past. I don't think it's a COVID thing. I think just it's I don't know, we're just not that creative anymore. I think the internet and all of that has taken over our creative juices. People don't get bored anymore. You're not using your imagination anymore. So we're just kind of pulling out old tricks. That's to answer your second question, if that answered it.
Yeah.
The first one is I am so grateful and I feel so lucky that I have always, and I cannot reiterate how much, I always get amazing roles where I'm able to portray women the way I would like to see women in the best of lights, whether it was, whether it was Kashyap or Zara or, Churels, the opportunities to see the there. Even in this, to play the first Pakistani superhero female chick, even if I was the villain, I would have been really excited because Sana Nawaz has done a really great job.
Done a great job, man.
She really has.
So either way, I would have loved to do the villainous role or this one, and it's really, really I'm super grateful that I always get this privilege, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So there's room for so many characters, female characters, and so many stories. And the best thing about this Umro Ayyar franchise, we can start calling it maybe, is that you can offshoot into any of our characters. A whole film can be on my lineage of the Noahs and how the girls were raised and how the girls became and what they can become. We can have our own Wonder Woman kind of offshoot. There's just so many stories. And we can have our own Umro Ayyar versus Krish versus Flan. There's the opportunities are huge and it's really exciting.
But Sanam, what will be the basic idea?
And it will all be
of these films?
about the fight between evil.
Good and evil.
No, but I think it's wonderful. And I think it's so good to see such a lovely, promising new film from the South Asian subcontinent, which is a superhero question. So thank you so much to Team Umro Ayyar for joining me on Filme Shilmy. Genuinely really enjoyed this discussion, and I can't wait to check out the film. And yeah, I can't wait to see what people are reacting to it whilst I'm watching it for sure. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Anuj.
you
Bye-bye.
having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Very good.